Hello, this is Glenn Sizemore from the Hope First Church of God at P.O. Box 404, Mount Sterling, Kentucky, 40353. And our hope is to bring Jesus Christ into your life. We hope you enjoy our programs, and we hope you enjoy our services, and I trust that God will do something in your life. I pledge allegiance to the Bible, God's holy word. I will make it a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path, and I will hide its words in my heart that I might not sin against God.
I must tell you that it's good to be here. I'm a little rusty. Haven't been preaching much lately, thanks to COVID and a few other things, but glad to be here, and I'm thankful for you all that came out. I tried to call Brother Sizemore this morning, and evidently he has misplaced his telephone. Matter of fact, I tried to call him last night. I didn't know whether you all would be able to get the parking lot ready, and I didn't know what the road would be like. I hadn't been out. And so I was just trying to make sure, but I did learn one thing about Brother Glenn. Now, me and him have been friends for many, many years, well over 30 years, maybe longer than that. And it's been closer to 50 years. But anyway, I learned something about your pastor that you may want to share with him. I was looking to see if y'all had a web page. You got a Facebook page, and then there was some like YP and Yellow Pages and stuff has different things, and I was looking at those things about the Hope Church. And one of them gives the annual budget and all this different stuff, and it said employees, and under employees it said approximately one. And I said, daggone if that don't describe him about as good as anything I ever heard. Anyway, I'm pastoring that little church beside the road up at Middle Fork. I went there in 1985 and went to Clay City for 10 years and continued to have church up there for about 5 years at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. I served at Pinecrest Youth Camp for 20 years as a commissioned missionary with the Church of God. I served for 10 years as a disaster relief coordinator and 10 years as a volunteer coordinator for the Church of God. And what I'm telling you is I'm a blue-collar man, okay? Now, Greg sat down there beside me and asked me if I'd want to sing a song with them this morning, and I didn't want to embarrass myself that bad. It'd be bad enough trying to preach. Y'all comfortable? Ready for the next half hour or so? I make a deal with the people. If they'll listen to me the first time, I won't repeat myself much. And I always let people go by noon. There's a couple of reasons. I can't compete with an empty stomach, and I don't want the Baptists to get there to restaurants before you all do. But anyway, I was thinking when Greg asked me if I wanted to sing about a situation. I'll tell you a quick short story. I had a retired school teacher in the church there at Middle Fork, and I may have told this the last time I was here, but I love the story. I had this retired school teacher, and one day she kind of hung around church, and I figured she was wanting to say something, tell me what I'd done wrong. Anyway, when everybody got out but my wife and I, she came up to me and said, "Brother Lacy, I need to talk to you." I said, "Okay." And so I said, "What's on your mind, sis?" Well, she began to tell me how I slaughtered the King's English. And I didn't really know what she was talking about. I did graduate from high school, probably the last in my class, but anyway, I wasn't very good at English. And so she began to talk to me about helper words. Any school teachers in the crowd? You know what helper words are? Yeah. And I'm standing there plumb dumbfounded, and she finally struck on something that would help me. She said, "You've got 2 daughters that are in college right now, and if you'll talk to them, I'm sure that they'll be able to help you." Well, as soon as they came in, they was going to Morehead State. As soon as they got home, I sat down and had a serious conversation with them. I told them about Sister Peck's concern about me slaughtering the King's English. And I said, "What's helper words?" And they said, "Dad, it's too late." So, if you are real fluent in the King's English, I may not titillate your senses. But I told Brother Jones I'd come here to tell you a Bible story this morning. And if you'll turn to the 3rd chapter of Acts, I'll tell you a Bible story. And while you're turning there, I'll talk about these preachers trying to get somebody to fill in for them. Okay? I was there at Middle Fork, and I was going all over the country preaching about mission work. I don't know whether y'all know what that is or not, but I was going doing mission conventions and missions conferences and all this stuff, and traveled a lot and was gone a lot. And so one Sunday I got this preacher to fill in for me. He had a real habit of hewing the knots off. I'm waiting. He could skin you from one end to the other. He was one of them what we call hellfire and brimstone preachers. And I reckon that he just left lashes on everybody there. When I came back the next Sunday, they said, "Brother Lacy, if that's all you can get, just close the church when you have to be gone." Well, I went to the other extreme. The next time I had to be gone, I got one of these guys that graduated from Anderson College. It's now Anderson University. But he had graduated from Anderson. He was an ordained, certified, and everything in the Church of God. And I got him to come and preach for me. They had a little meeting with me when I got back, and they said, "If that's all you can get when you have to be gone, just close the church down." Now, when Glenn gets back, y'all probably say, "Brother, if that's all you can get, when you have to be gone, just close the church down." But the next time I had to be away, a friend of mine was teaching a Sunday school class up in Prestonsburg, Kentucky. And he had got saved under my ministry, and I'd worked with him, and he was a great guy. He'd built a Sunday school class up to over 50 people, and they just loved him. And I said, "Would you do me a favor?" He said, "What?" I said, "Come down and teach a Sunday school class for me. I've got to be gone." And when I got back the next time, they said, "Brother, if you can get him every time you're gone, get him." And so I'm going to teach you, I'm going to give you a little bit of a Bible story this morning and see what you think about it. The 3rd chapter of the book of Acts and verse 1 tells a story. It says, "Now Peter and John went up together into the temple at the hour of prayer, being the 9th hour, and a certain man, lame from his mother's womb, was carried, whom they laid daily at the gate of the temple, which is called Beautiful, to ask alms of them that entered into the temple, who, seeing Peter and John about to go into the temple, asked an alms. And Peter, fastening his eyes upon him with John, said, 'Look on us.' And he gave heed unto them, expecting to receive something of them. Then Peter said, 'Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I thee. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk.' And he took him by the right hand, and he lifted him up, and immediately his feet and ankle bones received strength. And he, leaping up, stood and walked, and entered with them into the temple, walking and leaping and praising God. And all the people saw him walking and praising God, and they knew that it was he which sat for alms at the beautiful gate of the temple, and they were filled with wonder and amazement at that which had happened unto him." This is a story of a man that's not just a cripple, but he has been lame from the day that he was born. He's been crippled from birth. He's never been able to take a step on his own. And I titled this message, Helplessness and Healing. And first time I remember preaching this, I said that I'm now crippled, but I've got a hope that the doctors will be able to make me to where I can walk again. If you watch me walk up those steps, I walk not like I'm 73, and I don't walk like a 73-year-old man. I walk like a 93-year-old man because I got these two beautiful titanium knees. I've had both of my knees replaced, and when I preached this the first time, I was really in bad shape as far as trying to be able to walk. And so I had my left knee replaced first, and then later on I had my right knee replaced, and now I'm walking like I'm 20 years younger, I guess. But anyway, I'm still a cripple, but I'm thankful that I can get around as good as I can, because here was a man that had never took a step. Y'all, some of y'all got kids, even got grandkids, don't you? I was looking through some pictures, and I was over at Shriners Hospital with a little boy we call our grandson. My daughter takes in these drug babies, and they said he'd never be able to walk. And I was over there at the hospital with him, and he walked. I don't know what you'd call it, but he just flopped his knees against the floor, and I couldn't keep up with him with my bad knees. And we would try to get him to walk. I remember when my kids were little. You know, I think Michelle was 8 months old. I got two kids, and they're both senior citizens. Well, not hardly, but anyway, almost senior citizens now. But anyway, 8 months old. Come to Daddy. Sue hold the baby up and come to Daddy. And boy, she took that first step. Man alive, we just celebrated. Can you imagine a child that's born and you don't know what's wrong? But when they're 8 months old, they ought to be taking that first step, or 9 months old taking that first step. And then when they're a year old, they haven't taken that first step. And you set them down and they fall over. And when they get a year and a half, you're still hoping and hoping. I can tell you now, that kid that I had at Shriners Hospital is running, playing ball and everything in the world. I still can't keep up with him. But anyway, here's a kid that has never taken a step. Well, when he got to be an adult, it's time to try to figure out something he can do to feed himself. And so they would take him to the temple. And he had the most ideal spot. I told you I'm going to tell you a Bible story. There's not a lot of theology involved. They'd lay him at the beautiful gate. Josephus writes a lot about it. They called it the Corinthian gate, and the New Testament refers to it as a beautiful gate. But it was it was the most beautiful gate of the temple. Okay, that it was just absolutely stunning in its beauty. And I got to thinking about what a wonderful thing to, I don't know whether beggars had a pecking order or not, but he got the prime location. There's a lot of psychology involved in begging, and if you want to really do some good, I'll give you an example. You get you a cardboard sign, and you get out there on a real busy off-ramp to where the cars have to stop, and you have a sign there that I will work for food, or hungry and homeless, or veteran, or whatever, and you get you a big black Crayola crayon, and you make you a sign out of cardboard, and you stand there, okay? Now, you pull up, and you think that's probably a bum, beggar, whatever, and then you look in your mirror, and you see me looking at you. And you start, honey, give me a couple dollars, and you start cranking that window down, because there's a psychology involved in begging that they know real well. It's a natural thing for them, and they get in a spot where everybody has to see you either give or go. And here's a guy that's laid at this beautiful gate. And no doubt there had been people that had come by and put a few coins in his bag or basket or whatever. And then here comes a couple of Church of God preachers. What are they going to do? Well, they had a problem because they didn't have any money. You keep them humble, we'll keep them poor, or something like that. Anyway, they didn't have anything to give this guy. And Peter got the bright idea that maybe God can do something for him. I want you to know today, I don't care what your situation is, you're not beyond. You haven't achieved the height in your life that God can't do anything for you. Okay? I mean, get with it. I don't care if you're the chairman of the board. That's not a very lucrative position anyway. You got to deal with people like me. Anyway, or the treasurer carrying the money bag. The only one that I read in the Bible that carried the money bag was Judas, and that's not a very good one to want to be like. But anyway, you never get above God being able to do something for you. And so I guess Peter thought, if he can do something for me, maybe he can do something for this old boy. And he says, look on us. I want you to know that you have a right. If you have a physical need, if you have a spiritual need, if you have a financial need, whatever your need might be, you have a right to look on the ministry of the church. Man, too many people are ashamed to ask. They're afraid that somebody's going to think they're the beggar. And they're ashamed to say anything. And you've got a right to look on, and you can call me. I might be like Peter and John. I might say, silver and gold have I none, but I'll give you my pocket knife. Whatever. But Peter says, look on us. And then in the name of Jesus Christ, rise up and walk. I have to use his name. I don't have it. I'm sorry, I haven't got it together yet. Okay? I'm still a frail human. I try to be the nicest guy. They got a Lacy family page on Facebook now over in Powell County, and they got all these pictures. And I'm in some of them with the family reunion, and somebody pointed out how mean I looked. Yeah. I've been able to bluff a lot of people with that mean look, but anyway, they pointed out how mean I looked. And I don't know why. But when you look at me, I hope that I'm a reflection. I was talking to a man on the phone the other day, and he was telling some of his problems. He's a former drug addict that's recovering, and he was telling all this stuff, and he mentioned some habits, and I said, well, I'm supposed to be a reflection of Jesus Christ. When you look at me, you will naturally see my physical appearance, but I ought to reflect my Lord to other people that I come in contact with. Okay? I get so upset at God's people that's never happy. They're reflecting that old sour attitude. And you ought to try to work in a restaurant or a place where you meet the public. I'll tell you what, working in a courtroom. Y'all know I've been working as a bailiff for about the last 18 years. I got all my COVID shots because I'm a flunky bailiff. Yeah, I've been inoculated or whatever they call it. But anyway, we ought to be God's people. And we ought to have the right attitude about us. I had a lady, good friend of mine in Florida. And we went out to eat one day, and she just threw a fit. I'd been down in Peru or Guatemala or somewhere. And I remember in Peru, I was trying to eat a goose. I seen them peeling that thing. One of them holding it up with the head, and the other pulling the feathers off. When they got it cooked, it was about the color of this microphone. And tough as my boots are, and I do have my sheriff's department boots on because I was afraid I'd slip and fall on the snow. But anyway, I just got through eating that old cooked goose, and it's just like chewing a rubber band or something, and she's complaining about her steak ain't cooked right. And I finally leaned over and I said, honey, after we have asked God to bless it, we no longer curse it. And so the next time we went out to eat, she said, well, I know I can't see nothing. Brother Lacy will preach at me. But anyway, we ought to reflect Jesus Christ in our lives, and it don't matter if we're in church or a revival or a camp meeting or a restaurant or a grocery store or whatever. I've had thousands of times. I was sworn in as deputy in 1970. I've got my 50 years in now. I'm thinking about quitting. But anyway, I've had so many people that's walked up to me and said, thank you for your service. And I've had the limbs cut off of tree limbs around me with bullets flying and everything else. I don't want to go into all that stuff. But now I've got to where that if I go in a grocery store and they're bagging my groceries, I say thank you for your service. Because they're taking a chance on getting this horrible virus that's killing all these people. Anyway, we need to be a reflection of Jesus Christ. I don't know whether the crippled man saw a difference in these two fellows or not. I don't know whether he expected to receive something of them. I heard somebody this morning. I don't hear much. My ears big, but they don't work too good. But I heard somebody say somebody was in Cardinal Hill. Okay? And if you have a stroke, you have to relearn the art of walking. Okay? I've been dealing with church people for over 50 years. I've been pastoring, preaching for over 50 years. If you add up all the years of things that I've retired from, you'd think I'm 300 years old. But anyway, I know that they have to go through the therapy. I've got to do therapy. See my Band-Aid? I just had my carpal tunnel fixed, and I've got to sit there and do therapy. It's really strange. My wife say, you sweating yet? Not yet. Anyway, here's a guy that had never took a step in his life, and Peter reached down and got a hold of him by the hand and lifted him up, and his ankle bones and everything. I mean, it went down through him. He got his right hand. And healing virtue went from Jesus Christ through Peter and into that guy's feet and legs, and he jumped up and started leaping and praising God. He didn't have to have therapy. He didn't have to go to Cardinal Hill or any of the rest. Jesus Christ healed him. And I believe when God does it, he does it right. And so I look at that situation there, and I see a contrast. I mean, here is the temple, and it was beautiful. It was just magnificent. And the most beautiful gate there had a poor beggar laying there begging alms as people passed by. Maybe the priests and the Levites had dropped a few pennies in, I don't know. But the contrast that I like to look at is the difference that Jesus Christ can make in a person's life. Man, I'm going to guess that the thing that this guy wanted the most in his life was to be able to walk. Me and Greg got a buddy over in Powell County named Ricky Walson, sells guitars. And he was telling about buying his first guitar, buying his first Martin guitar. And somebody said, man, you could have bought a nice car for that. And he said, I ain't wanted a car all of my life ever since I was big enough to know anything. I wanted a Martin guitar. This guy wanted to walk. He wanted to walk. Jesus Christ met that need that day. I look at a fellow like that and I think of what he could have been. You know, if he'd have been normal and natural and all this stuff when he was a baby, he might have been a great warrior. He might have been a great craftsman of some kind. I told you I'm a blue-collar guy. That's a curse. That's a curse. If there's something needs doing, you're the one who has to do it. And so he could have been a great craftsman. I told Brother Jones I worked over at Columbia Gulf when they put in that 24,000 horsepower turbine engine back in the 70s. I was an industrial electrician back then. I retired from that, so I don't even know how to hook up a light switch now. But anyway, I've been a blue collar worker. If it was to be a welder, I certified on their high pressure gas line. Anyway, I've done all this stuff. No telling what this guy could have done, but he was a cripple and couldn't do nothing. Now let's look at the church. I look at what people could be if they would really give their heart and life to Jesus Christ. Brother, we need another Billy Graham. We need somebody to fill up a football stadium with people and have 1,000 people get saved at one time. Somebody that can go into North Korea and preach. We need people like that. We need missionaries. We had a kid over there in church in Middle Fork, and we sent him to Brazil on a work camp. He went to Amazonia. He went up the Amazon River on an old boat, and he was a country boy, a farm boy, and he said every day I had to work on that boat to keep it running. Do you know why that God had us to raise the money to send him to the Amazon so he could keep that boat running, so they could get the supplies and things and preach the gospel up in one of those villages in the jungle? We need people, but I look and there are people that are beggars outside the church. They are hooked on all kinds of things. I have been in drug work for all these many years. Lord only knows how long. I was the chairman of the anti-drug task force, served on drug court and all this stuff, and have worked with all these addicts. And you may not even know that you're an addict. You just can't do without a pill once in a while. You may not be able to do without a little drink of liquor once in a while. And so those little things, when you get to thinking of, I'd like to go into that church and be a part of it, and then you are held back because these little silly things that you won't lay on an altar and surrender to Jesus Christ. If you wanted to get saved more than anything else in the world, you can do it. You can do it. You can lay all of these different things aside. The gospel might be demanding your attention today. Look on us, Peter John. Well, what do we got to offer? I want to tell you that your sins can be placed under the blood of Jesus Christ. You can be set free from every sin, addiction. You can be delivered. You can get your mind straightened out and your physical body straightened out and your finances. You can do it all. And I said finances. I was pastoring at Jackson. A lady started coming to church, got saved, and her husband wouldn't come. She asked me to go visit him, and I went to visit him, and he was wrapped up in debt. That's a curse. He was wrapped up in debt. And so I got to talk to him about his soul, and he said, let me ask you something. If I get saved, will God take care of my financial problems? And I said, did God co-sign with you on any of them notes you owe? But God will help us to live a Christian life. One of them pictures, somebody said, wonder what he's thinking about me. I'm sitting there just staring off into the sunset and wonder what he's thinking. And I looked at the picture, and at the corner of my old truck that I'm driving out there about now, it's been wrecked and everything else. I wouldn't get my good car out. It ain't got but 160,000 miles on it, and ain't but 20 years old. I wouldn't get it out on the road this morning, afraid it's slick. Anyway, they said, wonder what he's thinking. I was probably sitting there wondering how old truck will start to get me back home. God will take care of our finances. And it doesn't matter how bad things are. it'll go better with Jesus Christ. I'm thankful for the life that I have been able to live and enjoy. And even though I've had a few times that I've had to say, silver and gold have I none, if you want to see what poverty looks like, I can take you to some places and show you what poverty looks like. And I don't have to always go to a foreign country. But I've worked on the Indian reservations. They show these things about Wounded Knee. Get on the Discovery Channel and check out some of this stuff. I've been out Clagato, Arizona, to the Indian reservation out there. I've worked with Cherokee at Tahlequah and different places. And I can show you poverty. I can take you to the inner cities and show you poverty. I can show you some deplorable situations. And we operate a ministry for needy kids. And there's kids today that have winter coats and shoes. I don't do it. I've got people that volunteer and help us. And we get it done. This church can be as outgoing or as ingrown as you decide to be. And I'm thankful that it's our choice. I'm thankful that it's not forced on us. A lot of the people that are in poverty, is forced on them. They can't do any better. They couldn't get their helper words straight. They couldn't do the things that need to be done. We teach we got a little Appalachian Academy up there, and we teach kids with IQ of 50, 55, 60 anything we can teach them to better them. Little girl, 11 years old, came in and she got a phone now, and she'll call Sue on the messenger, and she can talk into the phone, and it types it for her. And Sue said, how can I write back to her and her be able to read it? And I said, you know what the emoji is? She said, no. I said, told her, punch that little button. Me and her ain't one very smart on computers and stuff. Punch that little button down there, and you just get a whole page of stuff. So she sends her a heart and a smiley face back. Okay? She came in the other day and said, I just got passed to the 2nd grade. And she's learning. She's learning. I'm thankful that we are able to try to lift people. I want you to understand something. When your pastor stands behind this sacred desk and preaches a message that God has given him, God is trying to use him to lift you up to a higher level. I want to get through here real quick, because the hand that reached down to the beggar is the hand that reached up from the troubled sea when he failed at walking on the water and got hold of Jesus. Okay? If you will reach up and get a hold of Jesus, those kids of yours that's driving you crazy because they're addicted to drugs and all this stuff and living horrible lives, you might, after you reach up and get a hold of Jesus' hand and he gets you in the boat. I don't want to go into detail about that, but he didn't just get a hold of his hand and lift him out of the water. He got him back in the boat, and the boat, of course, represents the church. When you get in the boat, you are able then to reach with one hand in Jesus' hand, and you become a link in a chain that links them to Jesus Christ, and they can be delivered and gloriously saved. I tell people that when me and my older brother went to an altar and got saved, we had such a glorious reputation that the preacher was afraid to close his eyes to pray with us. I wasn't just mean looking. I was a rotten scoundrel. And God saved me, and I'm still amazed at his grace. He redeemed me covered me with his blood. Call me to preach in spite of my English. Call me to preach. I love what I do. My fear is that I'll leave something undone. Old Sister Peck, the one that told me about the helper word, she said, I don't see how in the world you can do all that you do. And I said, I don't see how I can do any less. Check yourself once in a while. See if there's something else that you can do. Or see if there's less that you'd feel comfortable with. Be the church. Be what God wants you to be. I'm going to ask you to stand and get a song of invitation ready, song leader come up. And I want to pray that God would speak. If there's somebody here that needed to hear this and really needs an experience with Jesus Christ, some of these other folks will pray with you. I'll put my mask on, pray with you. Whatever you need, we want you to leave here today on a higher plane than what you came in.
We thank you for listening to our program today, and I hope and trust that you learned something and that God has spoke to your heart, and I trust that you will become a better person by just listening.